It's one thing to have Jill Biden show up, but it's totally different to have Elon Musk show up and try to be accountable to the press and the cabinet. That is a bridge too far. They are out of line in having Elon there, and you need look no further than today's headlines to figure that out. CNN. Trump's cabinet meeting serves as a backdrop to Musk's power. It's just a backdrop. Trump was like a supporting cast member. New York Times. Musk's cabinet cameo. The elephant in the room wore black. The Guardian. Trump cabinet flunkies hail wannabe Caesar and Elon, his oligarch pal. And let's just give you a little contrast. When Jill Biden attended a cabinet meeting in September, this just past September 2024, it was Biden's first in 11 months. Look at her sitting at the head of the table. The CNN headline was not cabinet meeting serves as backdrop to Jill Biden's power. It was Joe Biden directs cabinet to run through the tape in legacy burnishing meeting. And then 21 paragraphs in, they mention First Lady Jill Biden shared an update on a women's health research initiative. New York Times, did they mention Jill? No, not a word. The Guardian, who's so upset now about how the flunkies hailed the wannabe Caesar and Elon, his oligarch, nothing. Didn't say one word. But Elon, bridge too far.
Well, to be fair, I think that the former president's wife was about as much the president as he was. I mean, Jill Biden was probably making more decisions behind the scenes of any consequence than Joe Biden was, which now even the Democrats and the Democrat-aligned media more or less admit, at least they do for the last year of his term. But yes, obviously, Megyn, the criticism is increasingly desperate and pathetic, I think, from the media, specifically about Elon. I mean, here you have the richest man in the world, self-made, richest man in the world, and every CEO that I've talked to, and I know you talk to, the titans of industry, everyone respects this guy and then some. I mean, a lot of people will just say he's a genius, specifically at what he's trying to help our government do, which is address inefficiencies, bureaucracy, bloat, waste, break through the really hard problems. Why is Elon the richest man in the world? Why is Tesla, SpaceX, now X after Twitter, all these, the Boring Company, all these different things? Why has he been so incredible at it? It's because when everyone else says, this can't be done, this can't be fixed, somehow this guy fixes it. That we have him involved in trying to right our government and figure out where a lot of this money is going and where a lot of the bottlenecks are for transparency and where the bureaucracy has just huddled together and decided they're completely unaccountable, should be a dream come true. And here's the big problem, Megyn. It should be a bipartisan dream come true. This isn't, in any meaningful way, a partisan issue, meaning if Medicare is paying billions of dollars to straight up fraudsters, not just here, but overseas as well, which everyone has known this has been going on for years. No one's done anything about it. If Elon Musk can stop that, does anyone want to be in favor of it? Democrats have put themselves in a place where they have to root for the bad thing just because they want to oppose Trump, Elon, and everybody involved with them. And I think this cabinet meeting is a perfect example. He's talking about ending or limiting, bringing down the numbers on government fraud, waste, and abuse. And they're attacking this guy as if he isn't incredibly talented, able, and capable of doing this, probably more so than, I don't know, anyone else on the planet.
But yeah,
so I
he
think
did it
that
at Twitter. Everybody said
deeper.
Twitter was going to close. Now it's efficient. It's got 20% of the staff it used to, and it's a success. I want to continue it down this line, and we'll talk more about what happened at the cabinet meeting, but just as an offshoot to DOGE and what Elon's doing. One of the agencies he's been looking at, obviously, is USAID, this agency that we use to funnel all sorts of foreign aid to God knows whom. That's really what we're finding out. These pet causes of the Democrats that have been getting slush funded for years. And there was a hearing on this yesterday on Capitol Hill, Buck. And listen to this exchange. You've got Representative Tim Burchett, Republican of Tennessee, questioning now former USAID executives on where the money was going. Listen to this.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Khamsi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance. Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas.
Seems like the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself. They bring together groups in Washington that overseas work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it.
International NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID. We had a regulation before we left in the last administration that anybody who touches money in countries where there's terrorists, those names have to go through databases, terrorist databases. That was overturned by Biden.
So that first guy's a think tank guy. That second guy was at USAID. It's unbelievable where this money's been going. We're funding Hamas.
Yes, well, everyone was, I think, rightly outraged, although sometimes it was almost amusing if the numbers weren't so high in terms of the wasted money for the, transgender puppet shows in Mongolia and, DEI theory in Guatemala and the things that everyone's paying for. That's one thing. It's another thing, and I think even more egregious, to look at what was just being discussed there, which is money being funneled to some of the most vicious and vile terrorist groups in the world under the guise of this somehow advancing U.S. interests. And that's what's key. USAID is not supposed to be a global charity. It is not a soup kitchen for the world. It is supposed to advance U.S. interests. And a lot of the stuff that Elon has exposed so far, Elon DOGE has exposed, is frivolous and absurd, but some of those things, the expenditures, for example, going to Hamas and al-Shabaab in Somalia and some of these terrorist groups that I used to track when I was in the CIA years and years ago. And let me tell you, these are very, very bad individuals. Some of this money is clearly working against U.S. interests and not being deployed in a way that would make any sense if the American people knew about it, which is, again, I think why a lot of the outrage is not just justified, but entirely necessary. We can't have this happen going forward. You can't have.
Why am I funding through this group Hamas's murder of Israeli babies? I object. I'm funding the murder of the Bebas boys. F you, anybody who supports this organization at this point. This is such an outrage that this was allowed to happen in the first place. For anyone to have the gall to object to the questioning of it now, never mind the shutting down by Elon and Trump, they don't have their moral head on straight. This is outrageous. The entire country should be up in arms that we've been doing this. And instead, we get ridiculous headlines like I just read to you about why Elon is at a cabinet meeting. It's infuriating, Buck. You're right. What you said is right. They're more obsessed with being anti-Trump, anti-Elon than they are in figuring out what the true morality is of what's being exposed.
Yes, and they're showing also the American people how obtuse they are in their approach to this at every step of the way. These are not 50-50 issues. These are not even, 60-40 issues. This is much more like an 80-20, where 20% of the far left of this country, or the 20% that comprises it, is in favor of, say, Hamas, or they're in favor of trying to buy off terrorist groups with humanitarian aid. And the rest of the American people are saying, what the heck are you doing? This is completely insane.
You don't just go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the numbers 989898. There is no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.